Welcome everyone to my Eternal Return guide. I'm Basan, and today we're going to be looking at choosing a main in Eternal Return. Choosing a main has become harder and harder over time with the growing cast of characters Eternal Return has to offer. So today we're going to be sorting the characters based on difficulty as well as their character archetype in order to find the right character for you. Now, a big concern I get in my Twitch streams is asking me if X character is currently viable in the current meta. For this, I would like to say that the Eternal Return team has worked in the balance well enough to the point where every character in the game is currently viable. I would like to say I will talk about some of the supporting characters in the game further into the video, and these characters are not suited for the solos game mode. So if you like to play solos, you should avoid these characters. With that out of the way, we can get into the video. First and foremost, we have our mages. Our mages are characters that mainly deal damage through abilities and hitting them. Some of the characters in this tier are gonna be a little bit harder in skill floor because it does require you to heal skill shots for the most part, so you're expect to see more mediums than easier characters. But if you're maybe more familiar with mages from other games, you should be fine to play these characters. I split the mages category into three. So first and foremost, we have our burst mages. These are the characters that have maybe longer cooldown but have a really big burst of damage. They want to kill you in 1 to 1.5 rotations usually and chunk that HP bar really easily. A lot of people hate playing against those, but a lot of people like to see big damage numbers and play as them. This type of character might be for you if you enjoy that. In here, first and foremost, we have Shukai as a specialist. So Shukai has a niche gimmick where he can gain stacks by cooking food. But essentially, he wants to go at the beginning of the game and start rushing cooking everything. So you want to be cooking a lot. It might make him a little bit harder for a beginner to play this character because you don't know the food recipes or what you should be doing. Mechanically speaking, this character is very easy to play. His specialty makes him quite harder. You'd require some good amount of knowledge to stack him up and get him going. Fooling with the next characters, we have a lot of people on the medium category. Most of them, they're just combo characters, so you need to learn their combo properly, and after that they're probably pretty easy, or their difficulty increases due to that. The next specialist that we have, it's Martina. Martina, similar to Shuka, it has stacks, but this work in a different way. So Martina essentially wants to take pictures of different objectives and like dead people's bodies and stuff in order to stack up. Once she reaches 10 stacks, she then enters broadcast mode, which then she becomes a real character. Before that, she's kind of like a meme. She really does like no damage. You have to all run away, try to get your stack as much as you can. She's kind of like a really gimmicky character. And then once you get to the stacks, then you become really strong. By any means, this is not a bad character. This character is really good in the current state of the game. She's just a little weird because of the way she plays. But if you enjoy that kind of gimmicky playstyle, you can give her a shot. That is why she's a medium, and that's her specialty. Sylvie, on the other hand, she does not have the combo tag. She is a true medium character within the burst mages. She has a lot of flexibility within the combos she could do to burst an enemy down. She doesn't particularly have as long cooldowns as other, mainly because she does have a refresh with her pistol skill. The biggest reason she's on this medium tier is because she eats a shapeshifter. You do have to learn 2 sets of skills. You also have to manage her fuel. So if you like managing a different resource while you're fighting and have to spend that resource to use abilities, maybe this character could be for you. Next up, we have our 2 hard characters. First of all, we have Alex, considered one of the hardest characters in the game. His biggest gimmick is the fact that he can use 4 weapons and all of them can scale their mastery altogether. So he can wear 4 weapons, use 4 weapon skills, and swap between one another very quickly. That's going to require you a lot of knowledge when you're building, because the building guide doesn't help you build the other weapons, so you need to learn how to make all 4 weapons along your route. It can be pretty hard for a new player. Not only that, but then you also need to learn this combo using all the weapon skills and stuff, which can be pretty tricky for a new player. You require a lot of inputs. If you play on high ping, it could become pretty hard as well. He's kind of ping intensive. By the way, high ping, I would consider anything maybe like above 100 ping would be pretty hard. Definitely one of the hardest characters in the game. Next up, we have Adriana, which is not a combo character, but she requires a lot of skill shot accuracy. Unlike the other mages where if you land a skill shot, you either land it or you don't, and then you win. With Adriana, it's all about like pushing the enemy towards where you want them to be and then grounding them and keeping spacing and doing a lot of things. So your accuracy with your skill shots has to be really good, and you have to play around that in order to deal maximum damage and stuff like that. So she can be pretty complicated, even though that at a glance she doesn't seem as hard as she might be. Alright, that was our burst mages. Next up, we have our battle mages. This is our counterpart to burst mages. Essentially, these characters are the characters that have very low cooldowns, just mainly deal skill damage. A lot of them want to go through many rotations or multiple rotations to killing an enemy, but the rotations are way quicker. Here we have them. Most of these characters are in the medium tier just because of the fact that, well, they're mages, and most of them, if not all of them, their entire kit is basically made of skill shots, so you're gonna need to land those skill shots if you want to do anything with them. Outside of that, if you played mages on a different MOBA, should be fine for the most part to learn these characters. Outside of that, we have Adina and Celine. So Adina has this thing where she has constellation, and you have to read your little icons on top of your bar, and then your abilities do different effects based on that. So you have 3 abilities which each do different effects based on which constellation you're using. 3 constellations, so 3 times 3, you have 9 different abilities essentially that do different things that you need to learn. And then you also need to, you can also swap one of them and have an enhanced effect with your ultimate. You just gotta learn a lot. It's a character that you definitely have to put a decent amount of hours into in order to get used to and play correctly. She's not like super complicated. Like her skill shot accuracy is really not that bad, and you do get a lot of them because you do have low CD. It's just you need to know what abilities to use at what time. Then we have Celine. This character is definitely the hardest in the game. If we had an extra tier for hard, like hard plus, she would definitely be there, or just like Celine tier alone. Each one of these characters' abilities has like an SA for tech, and honestly, if you're a new player, I would definitely recommend you not picking up this character. So you have a lot of skill resets that you need in order to perform your combos. You also need to land almost every single one of your abilities. You have an ability that pushes you, your enemy, and your bombs put down all together. And you not only need 1 rotation of abilities, but you need multiple in order to do the thing. So yeah, I don't know. This character, I would avoid it personally. With that out of the way, we're going to go into our truly mages, which we don't have quite a bit of. Here we have Aya and Eva. This specifically sniper variant of Aya. The other variant that I'm going to be mentioning in this guide is going to be AR, which is going to be in the Marksman's category, which we're going to be looking at next. But first and foremost, Eva, who's a medium. Why is she a medium? Honestly, Eva, the reason she's a medium is that, well, her abilities are deceivingly easy to use. She requires a lot of spacing. In general, this tier are totally mages. Even Aya, whose kit is pretty simple. You have point and click skill shots and a lot of range. The range is all they depend on. So keeping spacing with the enemy is going to be really important and succeed with them, and making sure you have good vision control over your enemies. You want to know where they are. You want to make sure they're not getting too close. You don't want to turn around a corner and meet someone, because then you're going to be in a bad spot. Your skill shots are actually not that hard to land. You do have a resource with Eva, but honestly, as long as you're landing abilities, you should have resource, and that's about it, honestly. Yeah, artillery mages, well, their mechanics might not, or their micro management might not be super tough. You do gotta learn to play around vision, spacing away from your enemies, and using that max range advantage that these artillery mages provide. With that said, we're gonna be moving to our Marksman. So our Marksman class, I didn't split this class into multiple. Marksman class, these are your typical ADC characters in most MOBAs. They mainly deal damage through auto attack, not that much ability damage. Usually their abilities are just there to assist them, and then their auto attacks do most of the damage. It's a lot of guaranteed damage, so a lot of them are in the easier side of the spectrum compared to the other archetype. Starting off though, our specialist Nadine. What does this character do? Well, very simple. This character, every time they kill an animal, they get a stack, which gives them more damage and more range than their Q. So essentially, this is kind of like, if you play League, it's kind of like your Nasus, but instead it's like you clear all the animals and stuff. It's an easy character to pilot. You might want to start learning stuff like the respawn timers for animals and stuff like that. That way you make sure you're getting them. You do get more value out of animals higher tiers, like bears and wolves, rather than chicken. So you're gonna want to start learning how to do animal rotations, and that can make this character slightly more knowledge intensive. But outside of that, character, it's fine in my opinion to play. Outside of that, we have our medium characters, Rozzy and William. Mainly Rozzy kind of plays like Lucian from League. She has to do a lot of skill weaving and stuff, pressing a lot of buttons. She also has a invulnerability frame that she has to use, and you want to learn how to do that, and you're gonna need to learn your matchup quite well in order to play her. So she can become complicated. She just has a lot of buttons that you gotta press, and slowly learn over time how much you can limit test. Definitely a character that is a little bit harder than what it seems. Then we have William. William's biggest thing on why he's medium, it's basically the fact that this character has a pretty hard time running away. He is solely dependent on his ult in order to run away, and that can become pretty hard. Additionally, you have to learn your passive and your balls that fall on the ground kind of work. If you play Draven from League, it's somewhat similar, but instead of the axis always landing where you would think they are, it's a little bit more random, and it's always like behind you. So your chase is kind of bad because of that, and it's a little bit weird because it essentially promotes kiting more than chasing a lot more, but it's also a little RNG, so it becomes a little complicated. It's definitely a character that you just gotta get used to over time. It is a character that gets punished a lot, so definitely by that I decided to up the difficulty on this character. Next up we have Jenny. Just putting this out there, Jenny has 2 ways of playing her. You can play her full crit, or you can play amp at the recording of this video. The amp variant, it's a little bit more like a burst combo. This is why she has the combo tag. The damage still comes from her autos because she does use Stampede or Duelist Marksman in order to do this combo. With her amp version, it's a bit more combo reliant. The auto attack version, which is the reason why she's in this Marksman, is not that much combo. The abilities are mainly for utility, but it can still be played. Both versions are viable. You can play either or, but the full amp one-shot burst mage type does exist, so just letting y'all know there. And then we have Haste, one of the newer characters into the game. The main reason she is medium is because she has a lot of like skill weaving, kind of like Rosie, where you have to auto in between abilities. She's almost a mage, but because she does have the auto enhance, and a lot of the damage that she's outputting does come with the autos that are being enhanced after using an ability, I decided to put her on the Marksman tier. She could be either or, honestly. I could see an argument for both of them. She is medium though. You have a lot of mechanics and interactions that you need to learn, like your ult knocking people back in order to kite, and then using your stunts and ability correctly. Your dash is pretty short. Overall, I think the character just has a lot of things going on in their kit, and you have to make sure you're learning them properly. Moving on to our next tier, we're gonna have our assassin. So our assassins are very similar to our burst mages, but most of them are going to be melee, and in the difference between the burst mages, which had a lot of range to do their things in a one-shot combo, assassins are going to be wanting to burst you down and kill you in one rotation of abilities, and instead of having that range advantage, they have the mobility advantage. They're really good at going in, getting a kill, going out, call it a day. That's what they do. Without their abilities, without their cooldowns up, just like burst mages, if they have long cooldowns, and if without those, they are probably dead. So starting off, even though Hyunwoo isn't easy, let me talk a little bit about him. Hyunwoo is a character that could easily also be considered a brawler, or maybe a duelist. The reason he's here in Assassin is mainly because of his amp and crit version of Hyunwoo. There is a way tankier version that could be considered a brawler, so just putting that out there. Hyunwoo can essentially become whatever you build him. Specifically here, I'm going to be putting him in the Assassin tier. Anywhere you put him though, even if it's in the brawler tier, he will be easy. His kit is really straightforward, so with that out of the way. Mainly, Daniel is just a medium because of his combo. Once you learn his bread combo with his W and his ult, he will go down pretty much so easy. Same with Kathy, she's probably more like a medium. You kind of have to get a little bit more careful with her spacing, and she does have one skill shot that you need to land. That's pretty important for her combo. Once you learn their combos and stuff, it becomes a lot easier. Shoichi though, this character is just hard. It's not just about a combo. You need to have a lot of terrain awareness in order to use your daggers. If you play Katarina from League, he's kind of like that, but you have to go through your daggers in order to do damage, not just pick them up, so it becomes a lot harder. You need to be really fast at doing your inputs. If you have high ping, the same way I said with Alex, if you have a high ping, this character becomes exponentially harder. And not only that, but I believe you require a lot more things to know with him. Additionally, unlike the other assassins, he has a lot of a harder time at getting away. So if you do fail to kill someone, you might just be dead. Or if you run into like a really bad matchup and you really don't have like any animals around you to dash away, then you might just die. So definitely a harder character. Really cool when he works out though. So definitely one that I would recommend to maybe getting into after you play the game some more. Moving on from assassins though, we're gonna be going at the duelists. So the duelists, these are gonna be your all-rounder characters. They kind of like skirmishing fights a bit more. They want to go in and out of fights rather than sticking there to a target and just killing them. So with that in mind, we're gonna go looking at the duelists who want a little bit of shorter fights compared to brawlers, but they're very similar at the core. And I split the duelists between two sets. The first set is going to be auto attack duelists. So these are kind of like your marksmans of the duelists, where they want to do auto attack damage rather than skill damage. Here they are. We have, first of all, on the first part of the mediums, we have Felix. The biggest thing about this character is his passive makes him to where he wants to attack at maximum range at all times. So you want to make sure you're keeping your spacing with the enemy. On top of that, he has skill weaving. So essentially after each ability, you want to be autoing in between. That's a theme with all three of these duelists. Camilla wants to do that too, and Aileen wants to do that too. So each of them have skill weaving. Aileen on top of that has a back meter. She has a little bar. Instead of using mana, she has that bar, and that enhances her ability. You have to track of that and how to use it and how to enhance your ability. Camilla on the other hand, just skill weaving, honestly. The other part is just dashing around a bunch and autoing. His ult can be a little weird to use, but for the most part, he was probably the easier out of the three in the medium category, I would say. Skill weaving is what puts him on medium, but they're all not super hard. Most of their damage does come from their autos, so I believe are very learnable characters. Next up in the same duelist tier, we have the skill shot based duelist. Here we have Luke and medium. Luke could very easily be an easy character if you're playing against someone that's your same skill level. So if you're a new player and if you're going against a newer player, Luke's probably like an easy tier character. But if you're going against someone who's better than you and knows Luke well, then this character can be a little bit harder. You do have to land some skill shots with him. He also has some cool extra things that he could do, like jump into cameras and jump walls with his ultimate and things like that. But this could easily be an easy character. For now, at the end of the day, I put him on medium. Just land your skill shots, you should be fine. Lara just has a lot going on for her on her abilities, especially her ult is going to be the hard thing. If you're not landing things to combo with your ult, it's going to be a really hard ability to land. There is a lot of power within that ult, so the biggest challenge for you is going to be 1, keeping max distance, just like Felix, in order to use your passive. And then 2, you're also going to need to learn how to land your ult onto those enemies, because without it, you're probably not going to succeed on this character. Then up we have Aiden. Also has the skill shot requirement, kind of like Luke, but for him it's a lot more important. If you can't land E on Aiden, a lot of the times you won't be able to start anything. Like you won't be able to start a fight, you won't be able to really follow up or do anything. On top of that, a lot of his abilities can feel a little bit weird to use, like his W ring, charging, and then like using E to go into the enemy. Could be a little tricky. Same with ultimate, and he has like a lot of mix-up combos that you could do with him. I think it's kind of those characters, kind of like Adina, where the more you play him, the more you'll learn him. His actual mechanics are not super hard, but you just need to put a lot of time onto him in order to truly get to play him. Okay, with that out of the way, we're gonna go into a Brawler class. Remember, this is also all-rounders. But unlike duelists who like to go in and out of fights more, the brawlers are more about they can take a hit and still get the job done. Can definitely just stick to the target and beat them up. But here we are, we have quite a bit of characters here. Some of these characters that have the combo tag might not want the biggest extended fights. Some of these characters like to do their one thing and then get out, but they are still relatively tanky and can still take hits and could potentially play an extended fight a lot better than other characters in the game. So I still consider them brawlers, even if they have some sort of burst combo compared to some of the others. Once again, if you guys want to see guys for each one of these characters, do plan to do something related to that, but just let me know in the comments if you want to see that, and then maybe I'll make it a reality. Next up, we have our medium characters. First and foremost, Elena, freeze someone and then use your ult in order to freeze them again and then use your Q. It's a pretty standard combo. It's pretty simple, and once you know her combo, she can easily be an easy character. Next up, we have Nikki, who has a parry mechanic, so you're gonna have to learn get the parry timing correctly. It's nothing too complicated. That's the only reason realistically she's on medium. If you do miss a parry, you could be in trouble, so that is what puts her here. Next up, we have Ekyon, who has a rage bar. Essentially, he goes on rage and then he goes all crazy, and then he has a bit of a time where he's kind of weak before he can start building up rage again. It's kind of how he works. So I consider him a specialist too, because he has his own unique weapon. That is his main gimmick. You basically need to get a rare resource in order to achieve getting this weapon, so it can be a little bit hard if you're newer to be able to get these objectives and get these rare resources, but call in a supply box in order to get this resource and upgrade your weapon and get the maximum profit out of his main specialty. Next up, we have Yan. So Yan has some basic combos that he likes to do, but he has a lot of flexibility with his combos, and a lot of the times your combos won't just kill your target, so you're gonna have to go beyond that and do something. And a lot of the times, if you do fail your combo and the enemy breaks out of it, if you mistime anything, a lot of the times you can just die on the spot. It's a make or break based on if you do things correctly and you know what you're doing. It's a character where I would say that while learning your combo could be important, I think just learning in general what each one of your abilities and really understanding your kit and reading it correctly and applying it correctly matters a lot. So for that reason, he's on hard. Last but not least, after Brawler tiers, I did add a support tier. So for my team mode gamers, we have Priya and Johan. These are characters that were made with team modes in mind. Both of them are pretty easy. In general, even the characters that I was mentioning earlier, when you play in team modes, the difficulty overall goes lower because you do have that teammate to set you up. If they have some sort of CC and stuff like that, they can help you land skill shots, etc. So most characters become easier once you play them in team mode. Both of these characters are pretty simple to play. I would say Priya is slightly harder than Johan. Johan is very, very easy. They're not that good in solos, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend them, especially Johan. I would not recommend you playing these characters on the solos game mode. But if you want to go for it, go for it. But don't say I didn't warn you. Outside of that, yeah, these are your support characters if you want to play in team modes. With that said though, that was it for me. If there's anything you like in the video, please like and subscribe. And I'll be coming up with more guides soon. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye bye.